Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Long Pamay, and in this video I'll show you how to use Edit Box Control and iRibbon UI object. iRibbon UI object will basically help create linkages between your ribbon elements and your code. In nutshell, you'll learn how to add controls, write value to it manually or using a program, and I'll also demonstrate how to perform a calculation by reading values from these controls. As always, project files and source code will be made free for download and use. The only request from you is to support my channel so I can keep sharing all these useful videos. So if you haven't, please do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for upcoming videos. As usual, I'm gonna leave a link in the video description so that you can, refer it yourself. So this is for Edit Box, and then this is for Ribbon UI. So here are, a small example that they've given. And then once you click on these object members, basically this object will help, as I mentioned, to link your elements to your code. Okay, so if you want to write a value or refer to those controls, you have to use this object. Also, you can activate the tab, like when the workbook opens, let's say that you want to specify your custom UI to open certain tab, like activate certain tab like this, you can do that as well. And then you can refresh basically the cache for the interface, and then you can also refresh specific controls. So we'll visit these examples as well. Okay, coming back to Edit Box, I'm gonna save this fresh workbook again so that there is no confusion. Again, I'm doing some new series maybe this week on the web add-ins for Office. So if you're interested, look out for that. So let's call this Edit Box, and then okay, now I'm gonna close the opening this file in custom UI. Let's insert this part, and again a custom tab. Let's call this as edit demo. Okay, now one quick thing here is we're gonna use onload. So basically, like when we for a button, for example, we use on action, right, like this. But for this ribbon you can use onload. Okay, so when the ribbon is loading, this is gonna get triggered. Okay, so we'll come back to our XML, and then I'm gonna not here, let's say onload equal to, and then this is where you specify your code. Okay, so let's say that we want to call this code onload. Okay, I'm gonna add edit box. It's going to the top. I'll just copy this sample for now. We'll just add one text box, okay, first, and then once you're familiar with this, then we'll make it link it to our code. So here the edit box, and then let's call this edit box demo like this, and then this is the ID, and then this is the label. Okay, so let's say that this is, we'll just leave it as it is for now. Save it. Cool. We'll just take this, call back. Now let me go back here and open this file. Okay, that is trying to load and it's giving error because there is no code. Now the same message box, sorry, onload triggered, something like that. Okay, and let's see if this works. Reopen the file. So it got triggered. Now this is our text box. Okay, now as such you can't do anything with this, so we'll have to write a code to refer to this and also to pull the data from there. Okay, let's take some events from here. So we already went through all this get label, get image, item image, screen tip, and all this. So but we'll just concentrate on this one for now. So let's find get text. Okay, so this get text, I'll just explain in a moment. We'll add this one as well. So one is the get text, and then the other one will be on change. Okay, so when there's a change, we want to track the value. Okay, like this. this will be the name of the code that will run, and then for now let's keep it so that we know what the code is supposed to do. Okay, now let's get a callback for this as well. Okay, let me remove this message box now. We don't need it. That was just to... So this function is basically to display the text. Okay, get text. So application is going to call this function or this procedure to display, to determine the value to be displayed, and then this will like get triggered whenever any value gets changed. Okay, so we'll try to use this to meet our requirement. Now let's declare and create our ribbon object. Okay, and then we'll set up let and then the get properties for this particular object. So let's call this ribbon as my ribbon UI, something like this, and then this is gonna be iRibbon UI. Now let's set up two properties. First we can call this let, and then this is gonna be ribbon UI. This variable name can be anything, as iRibbon UI, and then we'll set up get property as well. We'll set up set the property. Now set, and then my ribbon is gonna be whatever is here, and then we'll set this property as well. Okay, so this is basically gonna be our ribbon object, and now let's set this up here as well. Dot ribbon UI is equal to... Okay, so that will be it. Now coming back here, we'll have to set up this particular text box that we created for this as well. Let's create the same properties. Okay, now instead of we can call this any value. This is gonna be string, and then let's call this as Excel edit one, something like this, edit box, just to differentiate it, and then the same name, and then this edit box. So we'll not use set here because this is a variable only, and then this edit box is gonna pick up the value from here. Let's call this let's declare one variable first here. Let's call this private. This will be to hold the value. That's why I'm just putting a v there as a variable, just to differentiate it. Can get confusing sometimes. And then here we're gonna say that so when the value is to be displayed or is to be set, this is the time we're gonna use this, and then this is gonna be the value, whatever value it was assigned, and then this will come here. Okay, so I think we can give it a try now. I hope I put this correctly. String and then a string. Okay, so come back here. So what we can do now is, well, let's try a small code to write a value to this particular sub test one. Okay, and then this workbook, and then we'll try to use this Excel. This is the object that we created there, and then is equal to, let's say, 10, and then here we can, as I mentioned earlier, we can use to invalidate, okay, to refresh the cache of that particular control. So I'm gonna come back here. Now we can call this driven UI dot invalidate control, and here you can specify the name of the control that you want to refresh. Okay, so in our scenario, this is the ID is this. So I'm gonna say this. Okay, before we can test this, let's set up this as well. So if this dot ID, ID is equal to this, then we want to return return value will be this workbook dot axle, this particular value. Okay, and then here for now we can just print when it changed, then we can track the value. So let's see. So it seems to be working. The event just got triggered. Okay, now let's try to set this as well. So it's able to write this as well. Okay, so it's just wrote 10. Now let's try to write hello. Okay, so now what we'll have to do is we'll have to replicate this very quickly. Let me replicate it for text box 2 and 3. Let me first close this. I'm opening this. For demonstration, I'm gonna add 3 text box, and we're gonna call this 2 and 3. Okay, I'll leave this one as it is, and let's call this number 1, number 2, and then let's call this output. Maybe we can add a button as well. Let's add a button here. And let's add this icon for now. And let's call this add numbers. So this button will get clicked, and then these 2 text box will add up and populate in text box 3. Let's try to do that. And here we're gonna change, separate it like this. Okay, and let's add a separator as well. Okay, so this is edit box 2, and then edit box 3, there's a separator, and then there's button. Okay, coming here, let me copy all this. Save and close. Okay, so here's our number 1, number 2, and this is the button, and this is where we're gonna add the output. Okay, now we're gonna go here. Let's quickly replicate these properties for text box 2 and 3. Okay, so now coming back here, we'll do same thing for all this. So set text, and if this is edit box 2, and then So the box tray. And whenever there's a change, let's try to print it and check if it works. Okay, so far I've not done anything else but just replicate these buttons. Just restarting to refresh it. So first I'm gonna type in 10 here, so you can see 10 value has been changed, the number have changed, and then 1 from text box, 2, and then a dead box, sorry, and then 3. Okay, so all of them seems to be triggered. Now for the button, where's the button? Okay, then copy the button callback. Okay, maybe I didn't even assign it. Close this. So on action, let's call this add numbers or something like that. Numbers. Let's check it again. Okay, so the button seems to be working. Now what we'll do here is this test code that we have here, let's bring it up here. Rotate this. Let's try this one more time. So here's hello. Now let's try to write it to the other text. Edit box. Let's say 23, 20, 12. Okay, so that's how you're gonna do it. Now the other thing you can do here is we can also have a public variable to store these values whenever it gets changed, or you can also refer to these values directly in this fashion as well, like this as well. Okay, now for example, let's say that, let's call this read test. Because when that button is clicked, we want to return the value. Okay, but before that, let's quickly test it out. So number one is let's call it double. We'll just add these two numbers here. We'll try to make all these videos as simple as possible so that everybody can gain from this. Let's see if this will work. Okay, so this was this. Now let's run again. Okay, so there seems to be a problem. It's not invalidating properly. So maybe, not sure what just happened there. $12. It seems to be pulling the prior value because maybe the cache is still not refreshed, hence it's still giving us the prior values. So what we can do to avoid this is let's try and transfer this using public variable. So let's call this public number1 as double. And then let me just get this to the bottom for now, so we have space for this. And then we'll call this code from the button here. When this button is clicked, we'll call this code, which is read test, for example. Okay, so whenever this value gets changed here, on change, we'll say this value is equal to text, whatever is passed here. Okay, similarly we'll do this for on change for text box 2. Now instead of going through that, let's use this. Okay, so this seems to be working now. Okay, so similarly you can follow this approach for you know, like if you want to add a checkbox, for example. Let's say that I've used this checkbox here, you know, like to prevent the calculation before save. So instead of having to go here to file options and then, you know, like take care of that, for example, you can have this manual, which you can select from here. But then if you have to come here and then uncheck this box or check this box all the time, maybe you can have a checkbox added here to this particular group or next here, and then you can automatically have the checkbox, you know, like added, you know, like the true or false. Okay, using this similar method like this. So for example, if I have to demonstrate just for the workbook open, so when the workbook open, we can set this value, for example, in this fashion, or we can just call this code, right? Let's call this 12. So when the workbook opens, let's have this code run. We'll set these values automatically. Okay, when you're loading this on runtime, you do not have to invalidate the control because it's already done as a part of load. So let's see. So this values has been automatically added. Okay guys, that's all for now. If you found the video informative, please do not forget to leave a like and do subscribe for upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.